Buckle up, everyone, because today we're launching into a deep dive on humanity's incredible journey into space.
A story of wild ambition, groundbreaking engineering, and maybe just a little Cold War drama, right?
You know it. And we've got an amazing article to unpack all the highlights for us, starting with, where else? The space race.
Sputnik, 1957. Gotta start there.
Right. Picture it, the world still recovering from World War II, and bam, the Soviets put something in orbit.
That was a shockwave. Not just tech, but pure political theater. The U.S., I think it's fair to say, they were not ready for that.
Total scramble to catch up.
Yeah.
NASA is born practically overnight, brightest minds in the country, all to, let's be honest, beat the Soviets.
Competition, it can really light a fire under you, huh? And space. Perfect example, though. Can't forget Yuri Gagarin while we're at it.
First human in space. Talk about a legend in the making.
Yeah.
But the U.S., they upped the ante, didn't they? Aiming for the moon.
Kennedy, he basically told everyone, we're doing this in 10 years, no excuses. Imagine the audacity.
And it wasn't just America, right? The whole world was watching Apollo unfold. Talk about pressure.
But can we just appreciate for a second the technology back then? Primitive compared to now? Think about it.
Hold on, you're telling me they got to the moon using, like, slide rules and what, the computing power of my toaster? Seriously?
Pretty much. Apollo was as much guts and ingenuity as it was fancy tech. In that moment, Armstrong, one small step. July 20th, 1969. You felt that all over the world.
Still gives me chills, honestly. But Apollo kept going, right? More moon landings, and then, well, there's Apollo 13.
A successful failure. Talk about a reminder of how dangerous space travel really. IS. Oxygen tank blows up, thousands of miles from home.
Everyone holding their breath, waiting to see if those astronauts would make it back. Incredible, they did.
The engineers, the astronauts, pure brilliance under pressure. And those lessons, the wins and the near disasters, that shamed everything that came after.
Apollo pushed everyone to dream bigger, that's for sure. But as amazing as it was, sustainable it wasn't, was it? Every launch was basically starting from scratch. Expensive beyond belief.
Enter the space shuttle. Finally, reusability. Like a space truck, back and forth to orbit. That was the idea. Make things more affordable, more accessible.
Speaking of accessible, gotta mention the International Space Station. The ISS orbiting up there right now, constantly pushing the limits of what's possible, and countries working together to make it happen.
A truly massive project. And the shuttle was vital, right? Getting all those pieces up there, the astronauts too. Amazing feat of engineering, really.
Proof that when we work together, big things happen. But the shuttle program, it also showed us just how dangerous space can be.
Challenger, Columbia. Tragedies that shook everyone. Those were tough losses. No way around it. But even then, we learned from it. Made things safer, or at least tried to. Space travel, it has risks no matter what. But that drive to push further, to explore, it never really goes away, does it? Even with the risks. And that kind of leads us to, well, a whole new era. Private companies getting in on the space game. SpaceX, they're the ones everyone's talking about.
Elon Musk, right?
Yeah.
The guy wants to colonize Mars, make humanity multiplanetary. You got to admire the ambition.
People eat that up, those big, crazy goals. And don't get me wrong, they're exciting.
Yeah.
But what I find fascinating is, like, the groundwork they actually laid. Before all that, there's Falcon 1.
Their first rocket to make it to orbit, right? That's huge for any space program, let alone a company just starting out. Show they weren't all talk.
Exactly. And Falcon 1, that led to, well, this is where things get really interesting. Falcon 9. Reusability. That's the magic word.
See, this is what blew my mind. Landing a rocket upright after it's been to space seemed impossible. Suddenly, you're not building a whole new rocket every launch. The cost savings alone
Changes the game entirely. Makes space more affordable. Opens up possibilities no one even considered before.
like going from horses to cars, that kind of leaped forward. But it wasn't just about launching satellites, was it? SpaceX went further. Dragon capsule, sending cargo to the ISS, and then, get this, astronauts with Crew Dragon.
Can't forget about NASA's Commercial Crew Program. A real partnership there, you know, NASA saying, hey, private companies, you're part of this now too.
That's got to be a big shift, seeing these private companies right up there with the big government agencies. Really feels like a new era. And it's not just SpaceX, right?
Oh, not at all.
Yeah.
You've got Blue Origin, Jeff Bezos' company.
Yeah.
New Shepard, their suborbital flights. Space tourism, basically. Incredible views, I hear.
And then there's Richard Branson, Virgin Galactic, taking a whole different approach with that spaceplane design. It's amazing, all this innovation happening at once. Competition breeds progress, they say. But, you know me, I got asked about Starship.
Ah, Starship. Now we're talking about really ambitious stuff. Not just a few astronauts to the moon this time, but like 100 people.
Hmm.
To Mars, potentially? That's thinking big.
100 people to Mars. I mean, Starship really is like something out of science fiction. We're talking about more than just visiting other planets, right? This is about staying there.
It's a whole new perspective on humanity's place in the universe. Not just exploring anymore, but expanding. Maybe even setting up shop permanently. Ambitious doesn't even begin to cover it. And it ties in perfectly with what NASA's got going on.
Artemis. Taking us back to the moon, but this time it's not just about planting a flag and coming home, is it?
Nope, we're talking sustainable lunar base. A foothold, you know? A starting point for even crazier missions.
Yeah.
Those Mars trips we were just talking about. That's what this all leads up to.
This is where it gets really real, though, right? Building a base on the moon and going to Mars long term. It's not like packing for a weekend trip.
You got that right. We take for granted how much we rely on Earth just to, well, exist. Food, water, breathable air. You can just pack enough for a Mars mission. And space deliveries, that's not exactly Amazon Prime yet.
Talk about a logistical nightmare. So how did they even start to figure that out?
It's a huge challenge. Scientists are looking into things like hydroponics, growing food right there in space, water recycling systems that are super efficient, even trying to figure out how to use resources we find on the moon or Mars.
It really shows you how much goes into it, even just surviving once you're out there. And it's not just resources, is it? What about, like, radiation? Earth has our back with that atmosphere, but deep space is a whole other story.
Radiation's a major concern. We're talking heavy-duty shielding tech to keep astronauts safe from cosmic rays, solar flares, the works, especially on those long Mars trips. Got to figure that out, or it's a no-go.
Just another reminder of how challenging all of this is. But here we are, pushing those limits, making the impossible possible. Feels like we're at the start of something incredible, you know? Like a golden age of space exploration is about to kick off.
I'm with you on that. And it's not just about the technology, is it? It's the global collaboration, the public and private sectors working together. Some of the brightest minds out there, all focused on the same goal. It's pretty inspiring when you think about it.
Absolutely. So we've journeyed from that little Sputnik to plans for Starship, lunar bases, all of it. What gets you most fired up about the future of space, looking ahead?
It's that endless sense of wonder, you know? Knowing we're pushing the boundaries of what's possible, what we even thought we knew, unlocking the universe's secrets, maybe answering questions we haven't even thought to ask yet. That's what it's all about.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Keep looking up at those stars, folks. Keep asking those big questions and never lose that sense of wonder. From both of us here at The Deep Dive, thanks for joining us on the journey.